Hello YouTube, what's up? It's Jackintosh7. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the Nexus 5, which is Google's rumored next smartphone. So the Nexus 4 was announced in 2013, around, I think, November or October. I think it was announced in October and released in November. And yeah, so it's made by LG. It was a 4-inch smartphone, ran Android. Jelly Bean, I think, right out of the box. So pretty cool. So today I'm going to be talking about the rumored Nexus 5, and the rumors look pretty solid, I have to say. They're not really just rumors. Well, I guess they are rumors, but they're leaked information. So just gonna go over the specs. Have my list and everything here. I'll put some links down in the description below to where I got all of my information. So let's start off with the processor. It's gonna have a 2.3 gigahertz Snapdragon 800 CPU. That's pretty crazy. So a 2.38 gigahertz CPU. So it's a Snapdragon processor. So pretty fast. 2.3 gigahertz in a phone. I think that's the fastest out there right now. You know, the Nexus, not the Nexus, Galaxy S4, which is going to be released soon, has a 1.8, I think. And I think that's the international version. Or is that I don't know, but I believe one of them has a 1.8. So this really crushes the next Galaxy S4 already with that processor. But the thing is, do we really need that much power for a smartphone? So I might be making a separate video on that, because it's a good question. Like, we're having all these crazy things with like octa-core processors and 2.3 gigahertz processors. Like, do we really need this in a smartphone? I don't know. So sorry, someone's calling me on Skype. So the GPU, it looks like we're gonna have an I really don't know how to pronounce this, but it looks like an Ardo. Looks like Arduino. Ardo 330 GPU. Not really familiar with this. It's really like a phone thing. I'm not really into that, but it's supposed to be 50 times faster than the 320 version of this GPU. So I did my research, I just don't know how to pronounce the name, and I'm really familiar with it, but it's supposed to be 50 times faster than the older version. So it's pretty fast. So for RAM, we got 3 gigabytes of RAM in this phone. Alright, now nothing's final, but looks like 3 gigabytes. Look like we're looking at what everyone else is throwing out in their phones. Samsung has 2. They actually might have 3. I'm not sure. I think it's 2 though. So everyone else, it looks like, has 2. I know Apple, I think, has 1.5 in the iPhone 5. So yeah. Alright, so let's get the storage. It's going to have, they don't no longer sell the 18 gigabyte. Well, we're not sure about this yet, but they might not sell the 18 gigabyte anymore. They'll go to 16, 32, and 64. And there still is no extendable storage, which kind of stinks, but hey, you know, the phone is unlocked and all that for $300 something for the 16 gig version. That's the Nexus 4, and the price should be staying the same. So the battery, if you had a Nexus 4, you knew that the Nexus 4 lacked 2 things: camera and battery, and the Nexus 5 looks like it's going to be making up for both of those things. So the battery, it's going to have a 3,300 mAh battery, which is insane. Turning the speaker off. Okay. Which is insane. A 3,300 mAh battery. Some people say only 3,000 mAh. The place I looked before said 3,300. So look for about 3,000 to 3,400. So somewhere in there, but just realize it's going to be a big jump from what it was. The Nexus 4 had 2,100, so that's insane. It's crazy, because it would last you, but it wasn't the best battery out there. So with all this, we might with all the power that this phone has, we still might have the same battery because of all the extra power this phone will require with all the other stuff. You know what I mean? So the camera, like I said, the camera on the Nexus 4 was okay. Wasn't the best. I didn't own one, but I know everything about the Nexus 4. But it looks like Nikon is actually going to be assisting on making the camera. Like, they're going to help make the camera, which is pretty cool. Because if you don't know who Nikon is, it's kind of sad, but they make cameras. And sensors and all that stuff. So the camera will shoot 4K video, which is kind of crazy. 4K video at 30 frames per second, so it's watchable. But the thing is, like, you're probably gonna need pretty good like screen to watch this 4K video. But that's pretty insane for a 4K video recording on your smartphone. Then it also records at 1080, 720, and all that stuff. 1080 at 60 frames, and it didn't even tell me how much it would record at 720. But probably even double this, like 120 frames per second, but for 720p. But so the camera's gonna be HD. It's gonna be all out on the camera. 16 megapixel camera. The camera I'm using to record this video is a Canon PowerShot ELPH110HS and has a 16.1 megapixel camera. I'm speechless. You know, it's crazy. The front-facing camera is gonna have a 2.1 megapixel camera. You know, you only use the front-facing camera to you know, to FaceTime, well, to Skype and stuff like that. So the screen, it's gonna have a 5-inch screen. As you can see by the name, it might have a 4.8-inch screen. I think a 5-inch screen is really big. You know, they were also rumored about the Nexus 6. So I'm like, well, is this even a smartphone or is this a tablet? Like, what is this? So I think they should stop making smartphone screen sizes at 5 inches, because it's just crazy. You know, like, soon these things aren't even going to be able to fit in your pocket, like the Note 2. Forget it. This display, it's going to have an OLED display. I think that's what it had originally, but I'm sure it's going to be a lot better than what it was. More pixels per inch, all that stuff. So the OS it's going to have is going to probably most likely have Android Keyline Pi 5.0. That's going to be the newest version of Android, which will be released in May, or announced in May, something like that. I'm not really a big Android person. I have an iPhone, but I might be switching to Nexus 4 or Nexus 5. But yeah, so I don't really know anything about Keyline Pi, the operating system. But yeah. Anyway, let's get on to the release date. They have no idea about the release date at all, to tell you the truth. Some people say May, when the operating system's going to be released, because, you know, to compete with Samsung and all those other companies, because the Nexus 4 is kind of getting outdated, which it is, but not too outdated. Like, it will still work. It's still functioning. Like the iPhone 4S, that's totally outdated, but spec-wise. But some people say May, June, July. They have no idea. Some people say October, which was when it was announced last time, which that's when it was announced. It was released in November. And then I think it was delayed, so then it was released in December. So if you're lucky, you were able to get it in November. But if you were unlucky and didn't order in time, you had to get it in December. That whole thing was a mess. But yeah, so release date, we have no idea. Final thing is LTE. One more thing that the Nexus 4 lacked was LTE. So this really isn't a big deal for me. I don't even know if I have LTE in like where I live. So yeah, but most people want LTE nowadays because, you know, it's fast and it's amazing. So hopefully they do include. So the design on this phone is going to be very similar to the Nexus 4. So it seems, I'll put some pictures up on the screen, but that's what it looks fairly similar to the Nexus 4. So, you know, same rounded body, same glass and all that stuff, same indicator thingy, notification indicator LED on the bottom, all that stuff. So I think that really wraps it up for this video, guys. The main thing that's different about this phone is the specs. So if you're not really like a geek or tech person, then you're not going to, if you're just like a phone person, you're kind of probably going to be like with the iPhones and be like, oh, well, there's nothing new, so I'm not going to get that phone. But as you can see, there's a ton of new things in this phone, such as the battery, the camera, and don't even get me started on the specs, because this is going to be, if this phone is announced, this is going to be the phone of all phones. It hands down. So far, it's crazy. But if they announce it later on in the year, then I don't really see it, because like then quickly Samsung releases a phone. So I think they really should try to get this phone out like now, like in May. I know it's kind of hard to do, but like if I were them, that's what I would do. But obviously it's kind of hard to do. So, but yeah. So, yeah, I think that really wraps up this video, guys. If you have any questions whatsoever, please put them down in the comments below. Any questions, I'll put the links down below to where I got my information, and all that, my notes and stuff, all that down in the description. So yeah, also forgot to tell you, the code name for this phone is called Megalodon, after the big shark. So what does that say? I'm telling you, if this phone is released, it's going to be the phone of all phones. So, yeah. That's really it for this video, guys. If you have any questions, let me know. And, yeah, thanks for watching.